Hello, my name's Sarah Rees. I'm a CBT therapist. I work in private practice and I run the Facebook group CBT in Private Practice with Heather Howard Thompson. And we do regular videos to help other therapists in private practice build successful, sustainable and profitable businesses. So we do little videos that should give you tips and advice. And today's video is on getting started, the very basics of getting started. Hope you enjoy. We've had lots of requests of people that are really just starting out. So there's lots of people in the group that are in the NHS thinking about transitioning into private practice at some point. So we've been asked to do a video on what are the key things to start thinking about. And there is quite a lot of stuff, so it is worth kind of getting prepared early. I know I spent a good 6 months, up to a year maybe, thinking about making the transition into private practice. I did it very slowly, as I think lots of therapists do. So I reduced my hours in the NHS, reduced my days, and for quite a while just enjoyed the time off and did a bit of planning, and then slowly started getting some referrals through. But from the point of kind of launching my website, that was the main way that I was going to kind of try and get referrals. And I did join a lot of the agencies as well, so I did a mix. It took about 3 months from kind of really launching to starting getting the referrals through. So, and there is something about, though, when I've read lots of marketing books, the 3-month kind of thing that it takes from launching to starting getting your referrals. Now that's a complete estimate. Some people do just take off from the beginning. It depends how you set up and how much prep you put in, but I did it from a cold start into getting my first therapy referrals. Took about 3 months. So I've put together a bit of a list that I'm going to run through today of things that you can start thinking about. It's always worth starting with a little bit of a business plan. I know me and Heather, that also runs the Facebook group, talk about business planning quite a bit, and we both got to it a bit late in the game, but it's really worth sitting down and just putting together. All a business plan is kind of, it's a little bit like a formulation that you do in therapy, really, thinking about the key problems, your key smart goals, what you want to achieve, what boundaries you want, what kind of hours you're going to do, the type of clients that you'd really like to see, thinking about how you're going to save for your pension, holidays, are you going to have any income protection, thinking about how much you want to spend on your business as an initial outlay, or if you want to do it a bit more slowly. So if you can, just put a business plan is kind of a working living document, so it's not fixed in stone, but it is useful to have a little bit of a plan. So that would be the first thing that I do. Sit down with your notepad and pen, put together your problem list, set up your SMART goals, and think about where you want to be maybe in a year's time, 6 months time, 3 months time, and then go month to month, have a little bit of a plan or goals for each month. I suppose you then need to think about whether you're going to start out as a sole trader or have a limited company. I've been in it 5 years now. I'm still a sole trader. So therefore you need to register with HMRC, and that's very simple to do. It is, if you can, and I did this and I think it was worthwhile because my mind isn't, I'm mathematically challenged, is I started my business on the first day of the tax year, just to uncomplicate things. If I could go back, the one thing I always say is that I'd get an accountant from the off and a bookkeeper, just because I am mathematically completely challenged. As you get busier, my tax return, I did my own the first couple of years, and it took a whole Sunday and had lots of people checking what I was doing. It was nerve-wracking. I wasted my time completely. Much better and more cost effective to hand it over straight from the start. So thinking about getting a bookkeeper and accountant might be a really good start. Thinking about asking people, just ask around. People often have some good recommendations. I think that would be a very good investment. And so you register as sole trader from the point you set up your business. And it is worth, it's about the 6th or 9th of April if you are great with planning. If you're not, an accountant or bookkeeper will help you organise how you kind of do a split year. There is, I think I paid too much tax in the first year because I was earning revenue from the NHS, and I started earning revenue from my clients as well. There was a little bit of overlap, and that was very confusing, so I had to get lots of help with that. But like I say, most of you might be a lot better with your taxes and stuff like that than I was. And obviously there's if you're going to go full time and maybe have other lines of revenue, it might be worth becoming a limited company. Your accountant will advise you on that. It's different for everybody in the type of business you're going to set up, but there's no need to kind of, I would have thought, consider that in the first instance. Most people do okay as being a sole trader. Loads of information on the HMRC website about how to go about that. Loads of self-help stuff, kind of guides and videos on how to set up as a sole trader. You need to think about your paperwork, how you're going to do your notes, if you're going to have paper notes or do it online. And I mean, I think doing paper notes, that's certainly how I started. You have to keep them for about 7 years, so you really need to think about how you're going to store paper notes, where you're going to store them. They need to be stored. You need to be GDPR compliant in how you collect data and store data and delete data. So being GDPR aware for your business is hugely important now. You can get GDPR compliance pack. I'll put a link to that on the bottom of this video. But if you go to pocketsite.co.uk, you can get everything you need to be GDPR compliant. A therapy agreement as well is on there. So think about whether you want your notes to be paper or online. There's a couple of really good companies out there. I think most of us in the group use WriteUp. Again, I wish that is an investment. I think it's about £20 a month. Really good investment. Makes your notes very secure, very portable, and no storage issues. So worth its weight in gold. So that's writeup.co.uk. On there, they've got loads. If you contact them, their support and help service is just brilliant. There's loads of videos on how to do this, how to do that. And of course, if you're in the Facebook group CBT in Private Practice, then ask a question and most of us will be able to help you on that one. So thinking about where you want your paperwork to be, paper or online, your format of your assessments. I know if you're just starting out, your assessments might be very structured, and as you go on, they kind of get more relaxed as I suppose you get used to doing assessments. I found printing assessments, I started off with papers, just really expensive to get everything printed. Your printer at home you will find that it costs an absolute fortune, so it is worth using a printer if you do want to use paper notes and paper assessments. So go and see your local printing company, and often I do use it for some handouts and things. I send them over online to my local printing company. They print me off 100 kind of the panic formulation or things that I really use a lot of. I get them professionally printed now, half the cost. They can do it so much cheaper. Don't use your home printer, it's dead expensive for the ink in that. So that's lots to think about. I've just already mentioned being GDPR compliant. That's if you're working in Europe, very important. You need to be aware of all the principles and have a GDPR compliant business, hugely important. And you need to register with the ICO as well. So if you're going to hold sensitive data on people, which it is classed as sensitive data because you're holding date of birth, addresses, phone numbers, things like that. And, you know, depending on how in-depth your notes are, very personal and private information on people. So you need to register that with the ICO. I think it's about £35 a year for that cost. You need to put together a therapy agreement. It needs to be GDPR compliant as well, so that people know where their data is going to be stored, kept, when it will be deleted. Usually that's after 7 years. They need to know as well, your clients will need to know how to access their information if ever they want to. So really, GDPR, it did panic me quite a lot. I've got a blog on my website that I will link to as well, but we in one of the Facebook groups we're getting loads of questions, so I got a lot of professional help with my GDPR, and I did a blog called Therapist Questions Answered, and that was all the most common questions. It was a while ago now, so a lot of it has kind of gone out of my mind because I'm all compliant, I'm all set up, but it's nothing to be scared about. Really, it's about kind of making sure that how you hold people's data is really transparent, that we're not keeping data that we shouldn't or for too long. So it's really protects us and it protects our clients as well. So it's a really positive thing, and but you do need to be aware of it. And there's a, you know, I'll put some links at the bottom of this video for you to have a look at. Thinking about your policies, kind of DNA policies, non-payment policies, cancellations. Are you going to do 24 hours or 48 hours? What will suit you? How are you going to take payments from people? So there's cash, bank transfer, checks, online. You can get an online booking system on your website if you want to. It's likely that checks are going to go out of date, so that's worth thinking about. Backs transfers, while setting up, it's free. It's worth having a little card with your bank details on that you can hand out to people. But as people leave the session, people's lives are really busy, so you can end up chasing payments. It can be quite time consuming. It really is a good investment to think about having a card machine. They take a percentage of each transaction, so you'd put that when you're considering how much you're going to charge clients. You can kind of have that as a consideration of your charges, but I think it's nominal. A couple of percent, so you know, really it's really useful. It really save you a lot of time. Common card machines are iZettle, that's what I use. Really easy. I have an app on my phone. They send me out a little machine that people can put their card in, or just they can tap their phone now. I can send receipts to people, and yeah, I've had it for 4 or 5 years, never had any problems with it. I really love it. It's been a really good system. Or you're going to take payment at the start of sessions, at the end of sessions, so that's kind of something to consider. Okay, insurances. If you have your own room, you might want contents insurance. You will, to practice in private therapy, you'll need professional liability insurance as well. If you want to work for referral agencies, some referral agencies will require that you are insured up to a certain level, like 10 million or something like that. I'm insured with Baylands, and if you are registered with the BABCP, and you can get on their directory as a private therapist as well. I think that's about £150 a year to have your website and phone number all on the BABCP therapist register. I don't get much work from that. They don't distinguish between private therapists and NHS therapists, so it's quite tricky to kind of find private therapists on there. But I know that some therapists that get an awful lot of work from that register. I think it's worth having your name on. But for insurance, if you are BABCP accredited, you get discount with Baylands. There's also Towergate, Oxygen. There's a few to maybe phone around, and again, if you're in the Facebook group, ask who's using who, and you can kind of phone around, get some quotes and things. So that really does need to be in place. You might want to think about if you want to be have a insurance for salary protection, because you'll be providing a service where generally it's only you that can offer it. So if you're ill for any reason, you can have an insurance where some of your salary is protected, so you still get paid. Or you might want to start a savings account as well. Saving in private practice is like phenomenally important, because there can be ups and downs, and you just want to feel secure in the work that you're doing. So having a good buffer and about 3 to 6 months savings in the bank is of your wages is just really useful. And that means when you get cancellations or you have a quiet week, you don't go into panic mode, and because that will come across in kind of the therapy you provide. The better the foundation of your business is, and the more solid your business plan is and all your planning, the less anxious you are, and then you can focus on your therapy, which is all what we all want to do, really, isn't it? So that's kind of insurance. The practicalities, you might want to think about hiring a room. I know I really debated when I don't know if this debate still goes on for therapists just newly moving into private practice, but I had a big debate over whether you get your room and then start looking for clients, or whether you get clients and then start looking for a room. And it was a couple of the rooms where I was working, it was quite a big commitment that you had to purchase a block of hours the therapy rooms each week. So it was about £150 a month, which is quite big outgoing if you've got no clients. So there are some places that will rent out therapy rooms by the hour. It's the most expensive way to do it, but it gets you established. If it's really hard as you're setting out, you might have 2 days or 1 evening a week in private practice. It's really hard to get 2 people that can come back to back and see you in therapy. It's one can only come on a Monday and another can only come on a Thursday. It takes a while to kind of sort through that. So hiring a room, if there's anywhere near you that rents therapy rooms by the hour, that's a really good way to get started. The most cost-effective way is to hire a room outright yourself. Depends where you are in the country as to how much that will cost you. And again, I suppose it's something you take into account when you're thinking about how much you're charging clients. Of course, if you're working from home, then you're kind of all set up and ready to go. And I know that's a big debate that lots of therapists have, whether to work from home or have a therapy room. I don't, and it was something I was really against. I don't have the space, so it's kind of not an option for me. But as I've been in private practice, I've had lots of clients, and if I had the space, or if we do another house move, it is something I'd consider, just for ease. It depends on the house and your location, though. It's got to work for you. Some people have therapy garden rooms, which is very on trend now. When you're thinking about kind of setting your client fees as well, that's going to, be something that you really spend a lot of time debating. Lots of people just kind of do a Google search of therapists in their area and kind of match what they're doing. That's how most people kind of gauge how much they're going to charge per hour. But there is a fee calculator that you can use, because there's lots of things when you're charging per hour. There's lots of things to take into consideration: sick pay, holiday, pension, room cost, just all the general costs for running your business. If you have cleaners, if you could have business rates if you have an office that you rent out monthly, car parking. You need to get all your costs together and kind of divide that by the number of clients you want to see in a week. But if you go to pocketsite.co.uk, I'll put a link in. There's a free fee calculator on there, and that gives you kind of it will give you what you should be charging per hour on a very factual basis. So not what feels right. You've got to make a profit. It's got to, be worthwhile for you. You've got to get all your costs covered. Otherwise, it's going to be a real struggle. That's a much more kind of organised, balanced way to look at how much you charge per hour than just kind of thinking about what other therapists are charging, because you don't know what their outgoings are. It's going to vary so much depending on how long they've been in private practice and what overheads they've got, if they're employing admin staff. There's so much that you won't know. It's kind of like a haircut. You can spend £5 on a haircut or £150 on a haircut. So you do need to think about where you kind of want to sit in the market as well. If you want to keep your overheads as low as possible, you charge per hour as low as possible, that'll dictate a lot about how you set up your business. But if you want kind of some overheads, you're happy for that, like websites and maybe admin support, accountants, bookkeepers, then you may have to charge more, and that'll help. The business planning again will help you set your fees, but there is this fee calculator which I'll link to that will help you. Okay, need to think about how you're going to market yourself. If you are going to market yourself to the general public, or if you're going to work with insurance companies or referral agencies, there's lots out there. There's the difference between them is absolutely huge. It's a lot of research, but I think especially when you're starting out, and it can be really difficult to get established and kind of get the flow of referrals coming in. Some people kind of register with all the insurance companies, all the referral agencies, and get a website out there and start doing social media. But I suppose you need to think about, if you do a business plan, where ultimately do you want to kind of get your referrals from, and that will help you dictate where you put your energy to. So if you're somebody who doesn't want a website or any of that kind of hassle, you might just purely want to kind of go for the referral agencies and insurance companies, and that's where you put all your energy. You might want business cards or appointment cards. You might want a website. I think when you first set up, that can be, some people that might be really important to them. You can spend up to a couple of £1,000s on a website. And if that's, you have to think about the investment. If that's the kind of the main way you want to get referrals, then that might be worth the investment. Or it might be that you want to take a first step, which is putting something together yourself. I don't think you need to spend a lot of money on it. You can, there's lots of tools out there. There's pocketsite.co.uk. I've mentioned them a few times, but that's £30 a month, and you can put it up there yourself, and there's no initial fees. Or there's Squarespace or Wix. I think the main thing that's important with the website is that it's got good SEO, which is search engine optimization. So you could spend thousands on a website, but if it can't be found by anybody, then that's a waste of money. And so that's kind of, you can go for a really basic website, get a designer. It's always best, kind of lots of people get their friends to do it, and I think that's great, but you do need to think that if your friend gets another job or is busy, then you do need your website maintaining. So it's worth making sure that it's easily transferable between kind of website designers. If you love techie, it might be something you want to do yourself, which is fantastic, save you loads of costs. If you're like me, it's not something I'm interested in at all. So I don't think you need a all singing dancing website. I think it can be really basic with just what you do, how much you charge, where you are, but it needs to be rank really well in Google, and that takes quite a bit of work and effort. And also you might want to do social media as well. So you might want to think about which platforms you go on. Remember that when you do social media, it's always somebody else's platform. I think it's better to put the time and energy into your own platform, like your website. But they're a great marketing tool. You can have Facebook groups or Facebook pages, but I suppose it's good to think about being very focused in how you use social media. It can suck up a lot of time and energy. So if you go on every platform, which I think I am now, it can be very time consuming. And or maybe you want to do that and then you find your niche where kind of you find where your customers are and what platform gets you the most engagement. There's lots to play around with that. But social media might be something you want to look into. Also, you might want to start writing a blog as well to get your personality and kind of how you work out there into the world, so people kind of get to know you. Well, word of mouth is a great way to get referrals, so make sure you tell everybody what you're doing, let everybody know. It can take a while for things to drip down, but they will do. Lots of people are, working very successfully in private practice. It's totally achievable. There's really high demand out there now, and there's long waiting lists in the NHS. The NHS are really struggling. So it's nice that people have the choice of how they access services like we do in every other kind of healthcare arena. And the last thing I've put on is maybe having a bit of a plan B, something to fall back on. I did that. I think that was what helped me get into private practice, thinking I did look around and think, if this doesn't work, if I give it 6 months, a year, and it's just a real struggle, I don't like it, what will I do then? And that made it a lot easier for me to make the jump. Also getting a pension in place, which I had some financial a financial advisor helped me get my pension in place, and a pension was something, because my mathematically challenged brain, was something I really avoided. But sitting down and really looking at my NHS pension, and if I stop it and start a private pension, what that would look like, and getting my facts and figures gave me the confidence to kind of make the jump, getting that in place, so getting my pension in place, having a bit of a plan B. I was really plagued, I don't know if it's the same for everyone, with lots of uncertainty. Will it work? Will I get a client? Will they come back? Will they like me? Just guard flared up like you wouldn't believe. So therefore, I wish if I could go back, I'd get a few things a bit more organised, a bit more in place. But that's hindsight, isn't it? You've got to start somewhere. So hopefully that's been helpful. If you've got any questions or anything, pop them in the comments below, and this will be posted in the Facebook group as well. And I'll put some of the links that I've mentioned, and we'll try and get some regular videos out there on lots of different topics. I know some of these topics that I've talked about today, my gosh, we could go a lot more into depth in each and every one of them. So if there is an area that you'd like me to talk a little bit more on, do let me know. Thank you for watching.